Today, we're going to walk on the edge of demonetization. We'll see what YouTube does, but I think it's important to talk about Monty Python and give them a little bit of credit for the ways in which they predicted the future. They had an uncanny ability to pinpoint exactly how ridiculous society could become. We'll talk about that and more today on Indie Thinker. One of the things that agitates me about our present age is that great genius comedy, like that which came out of Monty Python, becomes less funny when our world becomes so ridiculous that the satirical starts to become reality. But just to prove to you that we are living in the upside down, comedic geniuses like those who wrote The Simpsons and Monty Python have a reputation for predicting the future. Now, you're probably familiar with The Simpsons, but maybe not with Monty Python. So I thought it might be interesting today to show the ways in which they have predicted the future. So let's jump into it.
Lights!
Amplify the ping machine.
Masks up!
Suck them.
Eyes down for a full house!
Here it comes.
And frightening!
Here.
And the rough towels!
Show it to the mother. That's enough.
Right, sedate her,
Number the child.
measure it, blood type it, and isolate it.
Okay, show's over.
A boy or a girl?
Now, I think it's a little early to start imposing roles on it, don't you?
First, before we get into the actual prophecy here, I have to pay attention to the fact that the way they treat the mother and the baby is pretty common today, at least in the abortion industry. We see that babies are just a choice, and besides, they're just a fetus anyway, and we're not really going to define for you when a fetus actually becomes a baby or when it's actually viable. We're just going to tell you that it's a constitutional right for a woman to end her pregnancy. So the dystopian dehumanists have definitely won, at least in that capacity. But obviously, the thing we want to get to here is the prophecy of imposing gender roles upon a baby, such that that little pesky penis on that baby doesn't really designate that baby as a boy. Now, this prophecy was fulfilled by the American Medical Association, of all places, when they started recommending not so long ago that they remove gender off of birth certificates. And for proof of how ubiquitous it is today for gender roles to be destroyed, we can go to the place of all wisdom, the repository of deep intellect. We can go to TikTok to hear feminists moan and complain about how gender roles don't exist.
A few weeks ago, I said I don't do my husband's laundry, and a lot of people are saying, whoa, 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 those are small acts of kindness. Why wouldn't you want to do that for your partner? But here's the thing. Small acts of kindness that are mostly domestic labor just add up to work at the end of the day. So here's a list of things that I don't do for my husband. You all know I don't do his laundry. He can do that himself. I do my laundry and we do the kids' laundry, but he does his own. I don't cook dinner. He cooks dinner every single night. I do breakfast and lunch for us and our kids. I don't pack him a lunch. If he's hungry, he'll figure out what he's going to eat for lunch the same way that I do. I don't make his doctor's appointments because guess what? He's not making mine. Would it be kind of me to do that? For sure. Is it my job? Absolutely not. I want him to be healthy, but he's a grown-ass man and he can book his own appointments, right? There's a lot of things that I don't do for my husband. I don't schedule his haircuts. I don't pack his clothes for vacation, right? I don't do those things. I don't buy him new underwear when it's got holes in it. All of those are things that he's a grown man and he can do himself. Can I do small acts of kindness for him? Of course I can. And I do. I see a vinyl that I think he's going to like because he's creating a vinyl collection. I buy it. I'm at the store and I see something that I think he might enjoy eating. I buy it. I find a new non-alcoholic beer that he wants to try out. I buy it, right? Those are small acts of kindness. Doing his laundry, cooking him dinner, making him lunch, booking his doctor's appointments, all those things, that's domestic labor. Those are chores. Those are not acts of kindness. Do I do them occasionally when he's working a lot? Of course. Do I cook dinner sometimes when he's had a really long day? Of course. But me not doing that does not mean that I don't show him love or kindness. They're different things. It is not my job as a wife, it is not in my job description to do all the domestic labor as small acts of kindness to my partner and receive nothing in return.
Well, I am happy to report to you that gender roles do actually exist. This woman may say that a man can wash dishes and do his own laundry, which makes for a disgusting wife when she is insisting that he do things and that she will not do things, which is the recipe for a horrible, disastrous marriage. And sure, fine, a man can wash his clothes and a man can do the dishes, but it doesn't deny the fact, that's anecdotal to say the least, it doesn't deny the fact that gender roles exist, because I guarantee you, the dude climbing up under the car to change the oil, the dude mowing the yard, is not the woman in this relationship, and it shouldn't ever be. The person protecting the home in the middle of the night better not be the woman. While the guy's sitting there snoring, she's getting up, grabbing the gun, and making sure that the burglar is taken care of so that her honey can sleep soundly at night. Gender roles exist no matter what you do, because, point of fact, they are bigger than you. Now, this is one of the causes, the repercussions, I'd say, of a post-Christian society, is that all the things that we relegated to God, we now have to take control over to try to provide some kind of explanation for those things. And if you thought the resurrection was crazy, if you thought miracles were non-empirical and they don't exist, well, all you have to do is take a quick glance, a quick peek at the dominating worldview of the day, look at leftism, and see that men can become women and women can become men and men can get pregnant and men should be able to invade women's sports. All you have to do is take a quick glance and you'll see that leftism far, far more ridiculous than Christianity could ever dream of, because Christianity teaches pretty logical things, like men and women actually exist because God made them men and women, male and female. God made them. Now, whenever you hear Democrats talk about the inalienable rights of people, they oddly leave out the whole creator thing that endowed us with those rights, and they often want to claim that God made us with intrinsic value, but often then leave out the made us male and female part of all of that. The whole reality to acknowledge here is just simply this, is that the male and female binary were not created by human beings. It isn't a social construct. It's a physical, biological reality that God created that's bigger than us. Now, I know we need to convince ourselves that somehow we can do something about that, or else we have to come to the disastrous and just horrible, unthinkable conclusion that God may actually exist if we start acknowledging realities and powers beyond ourselves. I know that's an unthinkable conclusion for many people, but the truth is that when we stop believing in God, it doesn't mean we believe in nothing. It means that we're willing to accept anything. And this is perhaps one of the greatest indications of how insane our age is today. But there's also another kind of insane thing that we're doing in society today that Monty Python prophesied, and it comes in the form of pronoun usage. Check it out.
Yeah, I think Judith's point of view is very valid, Rach, provided the movement never forgets that it is the inalienable right of every man or woman to rid himself or herself. Agreed. Thank you, brother. Or sister. Where was I?
Furthermore, it is the birthright of every man
or woman.
Why don't you shut up about women, Stan? You're putting us off.
Women have a perfect right to play a part in our movement, Reg.
Why are you always on about women, Stan?
I want to be one.
What?
I want to be a woman. From now on, I want you all to call me Loretta.
What?
It's my right as a man.
Well, why do you want to be Loretta, Stan?
I want to have babies.
You want to have babies? But you can't have babies.
Don't you oppress me.
I'm not oppressing you, Stan. You haven't got a womb. Where's the fetus going to gestate? You're going to keep it in a box?
Suppose you agree that he can't actually have babies, not having a womb, which is nobody's fault, not even the Romans, but that he can have the right to have babies.
Good idea, Judith. We shall fight the oppressors for your right to have babies, brother. Sister, sorry.
What's the point? What's the point of fighting for his right to have babies when he can't have babies?
It is symbolic of our struggle against oppression.
Symbolic of his struggle against reality.
If there is anybody who questions whether this has been fulfilled, then all I can tell you is it's time to wake up and duh. Now, there's this old kind of skit in Saturday Night Live with Steve Martin where he was kind of pompous and elitist, and he would say, my one prayer is this. You know, I'd pray for world peace, but then he starts praying, but also if I had a second prayer, I'd pray for all the women in the world to love me, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so my one prayer, if I had one prayer to pray, it would be this. It would be that J.K. Rowling knows that the feminists are to blame for the transgender movement. Now, before I get to that, let me just tell you that second wave feminism has been one of the most destructive forces in human history. Not only did they destroy the biological sex binary by trying to make men women and women men, but also in 1960, when second wave feminism kicked in, the divorce rate was relatively low, but only in about 20 years it increased 136%. So second wave feminism is behind the catastrophic divorce rate and the breakdown of the nuclear family. Now, second wave feminism is also behind the death of about 60 million babies since Roe v. Wade. Now, in 1960, 292 babies were aborted. Fast forward 10 years later, that number increased to 193,000 babies were aborted. 30 years later, in the year 2000, 1.3 million babies were aborted. So ever since second wave feminism, the abortion movement has catastrophically risen to include around, like I said, the death of about 60 million babies at this point in time. And all of this comes on the backs of feminists like Simone de Beauvoir, who said,
"It is not nature that defines a woman. It is she who defines herself by dealing with nature on her own account in her emotional life."
in other words, you are a woman because you feel like a woman. And then, most ridiculous of all, Shulamith Firestone, the radical second wave feminist, who said this: "The end goal of socialist revolution was not only the elimination of economic class privilege, but of the economic class distinction itself. So the end goal of feminist revolution must be not just the elimination of male privilege, but the sex distinction itself." So you see, if feminists have a problem with all of the civil rights that are being destroyed by men in the present, they only have themselves to blame. So I can buy them a mirror if they'd like one. And since I'm the breadwinner, and you'll probably be in the kitchen making a sandwich, I'm happy to go to the store and grab a mirror for you because that's the kind of guy I am. Now, why do I bring any of this up? Simply, I wanted to have a little bit of fun, and I think Monty Python is a great way to do that. But also, too, if we are interested in prophecy, if we're interested in potentially understanding what's happening in the world around us, what may happen in the future, might I suggest that all of the Marxist effort to try to destroy Christianity might be because there's a more reliable source of prophecy out there, just humbly suggesting, and that's the Bible. Now, let me give you some food for thought. Peter Stoner is a mathematician, and he wanted to quantify the probability of one man being able to fulfill all of the messianic prophecies in the Old Testament. Now, there are 48 unique messianic prophecies, and Jesus fulfilled every single one of them to amazing odds. But he wanted to try to make this a little bit understandable for us. So he just broke it down into just 8 messianic prophecies that Jesus fulfilled that he couldn't have controlled if he was trying to just trick people into thinking he was the Messiah or something like that. Things like turning water into wine and other things like that that you can't just fake, you know. In other words, things like the resurrection, things like being crucified. Almost all scholars of antiquity believe that Jesus was crucified as the Bible says, and Jesus really couldn't control whether or not somebody else would crucify him. So prophecies like that. So he chose 8 of them, and he quantified those odds. And he found that if Jesus fulfilled just 8 of those prophecies, not to mention 48 of them, that the odds of one person being able to do that is 1 in 100 quintillion chance that one person could do that. So as you can see, astronomical that the Bible would be able to foretell a man coming and doing the things that Jesus did. And this is nothing to say of the fact of the prophecies, hundreds of them, that do things like prophesy the existence of Alexander the Great before he came in the book of Daniel, and so many other things. All that to say this: the Bible is a superior source of prophecy. If you want to know the past, the present, and the future, all you have to do, pick that Bible off the shelf, blow the dust off it a little bit, and open it up. I think you may be surprised at what you find. All right, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to check our sponsors down below in the description of this podcast. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and go with God.